It is 5 o'clock, and we'd like to call the Budget Committee to order. Do we have any visitors that would like to address the committee? Seeing none in tonight's business, the new business is the general fund, and we're going to have presentations and discussions. Mayor Bill Britton, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's see, tonight what we'll do is we'll focus on the general fund, and if you would, we'll just thumb through the budget notebook, go tab by tab, and just go through each department. Some of the departments are here. I've asked to be here if to answer any questions you may have. If there are some questions that I cannot answer, then I'll bring you the answers next week after the schools present their budget on Thursday. Before I get started, were there any questions on the revenue presentation, on the general fund revenue presentation that Ann made last week? Any questions? I think based on what she told me, she basically hit the nail on the head at the first. The difference in the revenue is that local government grant, basically. So, and again, on the revenue side, we budget conservatively, and so we don't. If we err on the low side as far as revenue goes. Okay, let's start with tab 5. If you'll turn to tab 5. And there'll be some central themes that you'll see throughout the general fund. One is there's no large requests. Some of the larger numbers are like for the judicial commissioners, which are budgeted for an entire year, which you had funded for a partial year this year. And but you'll see most of the departments have held the line, and in our meetings with the departments, their main interest was pay for their people, and that's why we've stressed that during these meetings. Okay, tab 5, the county commission. There was some adjustments in health insurance coverage for some of the commissioners. So Ann took those numbers and just extended them out over next year, and so this budget is about $3,000 less than the budget for the year we're in now. So that's the county commission budget.
Mayor, you indicated several months earlier concerning which commission could address pay increases for county commissioners, and it's my understanding that this commission could recommend such increases for the next commission?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. When would be an appropriate time to handle that?
You could discuss it now, and we could add it now, and therefore, when we bring to you draft 2, it would be in draft 2.
Thanks, Howard. I was going to bring that up actually. I think that the commissioners, while all they go through and everything they do, I think the commissioners could view a raise along with the chairman. So, if we're discussing now, I recommend at least $100 for the commission and $200 for the chairman. More.
I didn't quite understand what you said, Tim.
I'm sorry.
Did you make a motion, or?
Yeah, I'll make a motion for $100 for commissioners and $200 for the more for the chairman.
Now, is that per month, or is that just total?
No,
Per month.
That's additional.
Mayor, do we know how long the current pay scale's been involved for the commission?
I don't know off the top of my head. It's been a
over
long
12
time.
years.
Yeah.
It's been over 12 years.
It's been over 24
Well, we know it's been
Been over
over
24
12
years.
years.
It's been over 24 years, okay.
24, okay. The commission meetings are, right now, are about twice as long as they were when Tim and I first came on the commission. And then we have a lot of additional meetings. So I would second his motion.
We have a motion, we have a second. The motion is for an increase of $100 for additional monthly allowance for commissioners and $200 per month for the chairman. And we have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? If not, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries.
On that, doesn't the commission set the chairman's, after he's appointed chairman? Once the commission set it,
We used to, Tim, but according to what the mayor has said, we've been doing it wrong.
No, not necessarily. I mean, but just on the chairman's pay, yeah, the commission does it in September.
But, you know, Commissioner Cutshaw tried to do it one month on the chairman, and he was told he couldn't do it.
Got to be done at budget time.
Okay, but because he didn't have the authority, or he didn't have the money in the budget.
No, it told them it had to be done at budget time.
Oh.
Yeah.
And it has to be for the next term too, is what I
Yeah.
understood.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes, these wouldn't go into
So-
effect till September.
So we're doing it now.
All right, tab 6. This is Board of Equalization. They start meeting tomorrow, I believe, for this fiscal year, and the budget's the same at $5,500. Any questions? Tab 7 is the county mayor's budget. You'll notice that on all the elected officials, there's a pay raise already calculated in, and that's by statute, where pay raises for the elected officials, the judges, the clerk and master, the election administrator are all indexed to state employees, and with a max of 5%, and this is the max of the 5%. So that's where the $5,343 comes from. We've reduced other charges, the 599 by $2,500, so a net increase of about $3,710. Any questions? Okay, county attorney, there's just $10 increase, and that's for an adjustment in Social Security and Medicare. Everything else is the same. Tab 9 is the Election Commission. And if you remember from the overview, we have 3 elections in this cycle. In the next fiscal year, you have the August local general, you have general and state primary, and then in November, you have the state general election, and then in May, you have the city election. And the expenses are for three elections. Then on the revenue side, there's $23,000 in there for the city paying us for the city election, and that's reflected on the revenue side. Jeff Gardner is here to address any questions you have. All the increases are basically due to having 3 elections versus fewer elections this fiscal year. There is a request for a pay increase for Election Day for officers at the polling places by $15 from $155 to $170, and then for the poll workers of $125 to $140. And that totals about, for 3 elections, that totals about $4,400. Any questions?
How many elections did you say we had for this year? Was it 2?
This year?
This year?
What do we have?
1? And then last year, do you remember how many?
It runs three, one cycle, one commit.
Any other questions? Okay. Tab 10 is Register of Deeds. Again, you see the pay for the official is increased. There's a reduction in the deputies line that's just reflecting Jim's current staffing. And so there's a net increase of just over $1,200. Now, none of these budgets include pay increases yet for employees. Okay, tab 11 is planning. And again, you see the decrease under the secretary's line. That was because we had some turnover in that position. And so the secretary in that position has less experience and is paid less. There's an increase in the chairman of the payment for the chairman of the planning commission. He will be paid. They're paid for attending meetings. They don't just get a monthly stipend. And so when he has to go to court to enforce any kind of code regulation or zoning regulation that has to go to court, he'll be paid an extra $100. And so that money's in here this year. I think it's $1,200 more, one court appearance a month. So that's in the budget. And then let's see, on the second page, you don't have any increases, so it's a total decrease of $1,400. Okay, tab 12, this is codes enforcement. The only increase there is that Tommy McKinney has been here 3 years, or during next fiscal year, his 3rd year anniversary will come up and he'll qualify for longevity pay, which is the $225.
Mayor, how is he paid on his mileage? Does he?
He's not paid mileage. It was added. He wanted it. Well, we were paying him a set amount of money for travel,
Mhm.
right? And so to meet IRS regulations, we had to add it to his pay.
Okay,
And so he does not get any money to offset
okay.
car expenses. And that was a couple of years ago we made that change. Okay, tab 13, which is GIS. We're having some turnover in that position. Ashley's leaving us the middle of this month. And so we'll see a decrease in the pay there. Keith and I have, where he's basically together, we've agreed to promote one of the young ladies in his office who is very tech savvy and doesn't have any GIS experience, but she'll pick it up quick.
So she won't be replaced.
Yes, you will. And what I think what's going to happen, Tim, is there's going to be, or Keith is anticipating some changing in staffing in his office.
Okay.
And so what Anna will do is do both jobs for a while and then see what happens on the other. So there'll be a decrease in this. We got Ashley's notice after we'd already prepared this. Okay, tab 14 is maintenance. And in the maintenance line, you'll see an increase in medical insurance, and that's just changes in coverage, and that carried forward through the year. Maintenance agreement increase of $500. Some longevity increase of $450. And when I'm using these numbers, I'm looking at the far right column. And that's, the far right column reflects the difference from one budget year to the next. And then on page 2 of maintenance, you have increases for gasoline and natural gas, for a total increase of just under $13,000. And the bulk of that is health insurance and then fuel, gasoline and natural gas. And we'll look at the capital projects that they've requested when we get to the capital project line.
Where do they use most of their basic needs are? Just right here in the jail, back and forth to the jail, around?
You're talking about time spent?
They're spending the gas money and,
When we're out on time, we take the correct time.
yeah, but what I'm saying is when you're on duty every day, where do you spend most of your time doing? At the jail? Is that the bulk of your time? They're in here?
Years, maybe go to Lowe's. We have to go to the Parkway office.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, most of it's driving here.
Okay. Because, I don't know, it might, if you keep running from here to the jail or something like that, wouldn't it benefit you getting a little Kubota four-wheel drive thing or something, running back and forth, save gas?
We had a little cadet for a little while, and,
It didn't help?
it didn't really work out well.
Oh, okay.
You got the weather to consider, back and forth. Some days we'll be over like 6 or 7. We need something, we gotta come back, we don't have everything we need over in the building.
Yeah, but what I'm talking about, though, if you've got, those little SUVs, what do you call them, little carts, that's got a dump bed on it, stuff like that, that you can run back and forth. It seems like to me, save getting in a truck or car and coming back and forth.
You'd have to load it up with your tools. It was just a hassle for us.
Was it?
To try to, offload it out, put it in the bed, we try to take what we need as we go. Sometimes it just didn't work out very well for us.
Okay.
Does he have a used truck in his budget this year?
Any other questions on maintenance? Okay, tab 15 is archives. There's rounding change there, $1 for archives. A lot of the money, not all, but a lot of the money spent on office supplies is money that's donated or generated by the office by the sale of materials. Tab 16 is the finance and budget, or accounting and budget department, which is Ann's department, and there's seven employees in that department. The $525 from longevity is just for those 7 people. Let's see, everything else is pretty much have $100 more for stationery and forms. So an increase of $827. And then the next page is just for your information. We used to budget, we had one employee that worked in finance that was paid under the purchasing budget, and we just consolidated that all into accounting and budgeting, and this just shows, this is the year we're in now is the first year we've done that, and we just wanted to show you some history. Tab 17 is the Assessor of Properties Office. You'll see the top line is the pay raise for the elected official. Everything else is payroll related to that, except for the longevity pay. There's a $500 increase in the fee that goes to the state of Tennessee. It's based on the fee that we pay the state, which is the program that the assessor uses where all the data's stored on all the parcels. It's the fee that we pay is based on the number of parcels. And so we have more parcels than we did a year ago, so that's where the $500 comes. Any questions there? Tab 18 is the reappraisal budget under Keith. And there's 2 positions in that top line under deputies. And then you have a longevity, and for one of the employees, it's the $75, and so total increase of $1,271. Tab 19 is the trustee's office, and Scotty's moved some money around. One 30-hour employee has gone to part-time, so that's enabled him to move some money from the deputies line to the part-time personnel line to save about $4,000 there. There's some changes in the medical insurance. The full-time person, now part-time, does not have health insurance. There's, you'll see under 508, premiums on corporate surety bonds. The trustee's office, because of the amount of money that it handles, is only covered for, I think, $300,000, I think. Scotty, do you know? On our liability insurance, all the other elected officials are covered. And I think it's maybe $300,000, maybe $400,000, and that's not enough coverage for the trustee's office. So we buy an additional policy, and we buy it for 4 years. We pay it one time, it covers 4 years, so that's what the $7,500 is for. It's for the additional coverage for the trustee.
So that's $7,500 a year, we pay more just to have.
Just one time, no, we pay it once every 4 years.
Okay, 4 years.
Yes, yes. So we pay it at the first of the term for the trustee.
That covers $400,000.
Pardon?
That covers $400,000.
Not for this, no, it's like over $1 million. Any other questions? Okay, tab 20 is county clerk's office. You'll see the officials raised there, some turnover in the office, so they'll be paying less in longevity. Let's see. You have maintenance agreement increase of $1,500. Postal increases, you see $15,000 in additional postage expense. That's because of the new license plates and mailing those license plates out. That's costing more money, but on the flip side is it's offset by revenue because the car registrant pays that fee. And so so that additional $15,000 is covered on the revenue side. So if you look at the increase of $21,442, $15,000 of that is covered on the revenue side, and the bulk of the rest of it is related to the county officials' pay.
And the county officials, administrative officers, that's determined at state level, isn't it? The increase? Yeah.
Well, yes, the state sets a minimum,
Okay.
and our commission has always chosen to pay the minimum for all the elected officials. So that's what this is.
Yeah.
And then any pay raise is indexed to what state employees received the prior year. Okay, tab 21 is data processing, our IT department. And there's a $278 decrease there. And just moving some money around, and Jeff gets the $75 as Jeff gets another year on his longevity. But in this budget are replacements for PCs for various offices, and as well as email security programs, storage, off-site storage that we have to maintain for data.
Mayor, how much off-site storage do we have?
I can't answer that. I can get that answer for you, Tim, but I really don't know.
Is it a lot? I mean, do you know, or?
We store emails, we store, documents. It's significant, yes. Okay, tab 22 is satellite office, and there's a decrease in the satellite office primarily from the adjustment of insurance coverage for some employees. So its request is down $4,300. Tab 23 is circuit court clerk. And you'll see that in Teresa's budget, you'll see a big decrease of the $45,845. That's the judicial commissioner pay that was in her budget that we've moved to General Sessions Division 1 to Doug Collins's budget. So that'll show up there. You'll see that. And then some other decreases in medical insurance and other payroll-related items, as well as part-time personnel was reduced. Tab 24 is General Sessions, Division 1, Judge Collins's court. You'll see the big increase on line 2. That's the judicial commissioner's pay. 3 full-time positions, 2 part-times, and he's having a hard time filling the positions and because of work schedules. And the pay right now is $15 an hour with $16 for the overnight shift, for the graveyard shift. And
We already have those positions
in this budget.
the old budget. I mean, from the point where we approved them till now.
Correct.
So we're picking them up for full time.
Tab 25 is General Sessions, Division 2. And increases almost $7,300 there, and it's all related to the pay increase for the judge.
What is the reduction of $2,000 there?
It is, like in other contracted services, if she needs an interpreter or something like that, it could come out of there. It could come out of Teresa's budget. What she does pay out of that is to CASA, which is the advocates for the juveniles in juvenile court, and she pays them for advocacy. I think it was $1,500 this year. She just didn't see a need for $2,000. Tab 26, this is recovery court, drug court. Penny, are you here? Penny's here. So Penny Knight is our recovery court coordinator. If you guys have questions for her, if you may recall a year ago, or really over a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, we reinvented our recovery court, went from a misdemeanor court to a felony court. And so Penny's been the only employee that we've had during the transition to gearing up to a felony court, and they've done a very good job, and close to 20 participants now in the program. She and Judge Boniface are leading that charge. They have a good team that they've put together. What we're proposing here is to add a male caseworker that would help Penny handle the caseload of the court. So what you're seeing here, basically, there's also, on the revenue side, an increase of the state recovery court grant that we received by $40,000. So we're basically looking at an increase of about $22,000, a net increase of about $22,000 to add this employee. And this is part of our program, recovery court and jail to work and some other programs that we use to try to impact the lives of those who have decided to turn their lives around from drug addiction.
Bill, quite a few months ago, we had numerous of the judges in here from different counties and everything talking about this program and such, and I'm pro drug court. I worked in it with Judge Snyder and such, but my question is Ms. Knight and this new deputy, are they only dealing with Hamlin County residents or Hamlin County? Okay, they're
Just
not,
Hamlin County.
not dealing with anybody from out of county? Okay.
Or their offense was in Hamlin County. That might be a resident of another county.
Yes, but they're.
But their offense was here.
Have we moved toward a, I don't know, lack of a better term, a halfway house for these women? I know that was, I know,
So Judge Boniface, I just took some
Right.
paperwork to Rick Swanson today. We are trying to get a 501c started, so
Right.
the donations can start coming in. We do need a halfway house for women.
right, I understand
There's a few things for our men to do here. In the caseload of 20, in 11 months, we went from 0 to 20 participants. I've probably got 6 to 12 more applications. We are a judicial district court. In a year from now, when the mayor's standing here, we hope he's presenting revenue from maybe Hawkins and Greene County. So we're also serving those two counties. That was the plan from the get-go to grow. And so but we would have to figure out how the revenue would come from those counties for us to serve those counties for felony, because they have misdemeanor courts.
What physically do we need? You know, like a house of some kind, or, you know?
Yes, we do need a house. Every house that appears to be an option is not an option at some point. It's either not up to code, costs too much to get it to code, or it's used for something else, so far.
What size do you need?
Well, there's different codes for seven and under participants than there is for 8 and up. So I guess it would depend on our donations, for sure.
Yeah, sure.
For sure. The Max Shelter has been very gracious to work with our program. They've altered some of their qualifications rules to work with our people when they come in. And so we're kind of got a working relationship there, but not everybody's fit to live there. They won't make it there. That's what I'm saying.
This is an absolute necessity, and
It is, and it does save the county money. Some statistics from 2011, the average in 2011 was $6,000 a participant. It saved. But then if you don't have 20 participants in jail, I know the state was reimbursing the county for state inmates $32 a day, and that was, I don't know if that, I was supposed to ask you if that was still current. It's higher than that. And our oldest participant's got 11 years in, and he's not spent another day back in the county jail. It's the longest. He's 40-something years old, and it's the longest he's been out of jail since he turned 18.
That's
So,
success.
and I'm saying that with everything
I
crossed over
understand.
here.
But that's success, absolute success, you know.
Mr. Mayor, the facility we visited, is it in this budget, Hamilton County as well? The long-term facility?
In Carter County?
Not,
No, that would come out of a different pot of money.
okay.
In July, we'll come with a plan for that money.
That's
need-
my,
we need
that's
to-
a-
So
we
it's
need to
still a
do-
possibility.
Yes.
We need to
Yes.
do something on that. I agree 100%.
What is the overall success rate percent-wise out of
nationwide.
nationwide and East Tennessee, the difference between the two? Because you have a higher than normal here, don't you?
The nationwide, I was told, was right around 40. Jail 0, so drug court's the most successful program in the country for rehabilitation. And we've got everything crossed over here. I'm shooting for 60%. So, fingers crossed.
And are you,
That
Jail to
long-term
work,
facility,
jail-
that'll make a difference.
Well, the facility in Carter County is it's going to start out as a men's
Right.
residential recovery court.
Right.
So that's a little different than we actually have 2 of our participants in women's residential recovery courts in Nashville, 2 of them. And they're there for 12 months. So we transfer them to their residential recovery court. And so that's what they're trying to start in Carter County. But they're going to start out men only first.
Yeah, and I was aware of that. I just didn't know if, this was brought to my attention last week by a gentleman whom I will not mention, but he was really adamant about getting this thing and getting it going. And he's the type of guy that can get things done, so.
I think they're very beneficial, but they're so hard to get a spot in a grant. There's not one in our neck of the woods. So when we're putting them in Nashville, we're really lucky, and it's kind of like a last, and Mr. Doty may be able to tell this, that's a last ditch effort to help somebody because the spots are so hard to get.
Right.
We're hoping that when Carter, the one up in Northeast opens, that if we're helping with that, then we're guaranteed maybe some spots for our people to go to.
Should be, but.
So that would be the hope.
I hope we can get on board with that and get something going, because that's,
You may have already covered this and I missed it. Now, what's the stay time for?
So our policies and procedures say
Yes.
18 to 24 months.
Okay,
I've got 20 participants and not one's on target to finish in 18 months.
okay.
I would guess more 24 to 30 months that we're holding their hand. They've got to have a minimum of a 2-year sentence in circuit court to even qualify.
Okay.
We have a qualification process. There have to be high risk, high need in 7 different components.
The one they're talking about in Carter County is the same type of 18 to 24 months, I believe.
Is I think it's the 12 months that they'll be there.
Only 12?
Well, 12 to 18, it's going to all depend on where that individual is in their
Okay,
recovery.
so you have a parallel program basically for here for a different, gotcha.
so isn't it statistically about 21 months before any significant recovery happens? Is that still correct?
We've had 2 of our participants celebrate a year of sobriety so far. So it depends
Too early.
on the person.
Too early to know.
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
still, this is still a very young program.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just over a year old.
It's a very beneficial program. Like I said, I worked with Judge Snyder on it for years when it was a misdemeanor, and it was great to see those that did get clean. You could just see a change in their life that this program brought, and they wouldn't have had that opportunity if they'd just stayed in jail. They didn't have the support, they didn't have the tools that they need, and this provides the tools.
And you vet these folks as they come in. I mean, obviously, we know that some that are addicted or in addiction, they have to want help.
Yes, we are a voluntary program. and they're in it till they successfully
So-
complete it. They quit it, and they go back in front of their sentencing judge. We transfer them back out, or the judge would terminate it. Judge Boniface hasn't terminated anybody yet.
I got you.
And she, I dare say somebody will quit before she terminates somebody. But I could not, I can tell you right now, I could not do what I'm doing. I've been talking to the other counties around us. I could not have done what I've done in the last year since we started taking clients without the help of Don Baird's office and the sheriff's department. And just because I need that male presence, and they, you know, they do things, they've been very helpful because they're sold out on the program also. Chad Mullins has been on the team since the get-go. And he's sold on it, and he told us he plans to continue as a representative from the sheriff's department. And we just could not do what we do. I've not been able to do. So maybe if I get a case manager, I can relieve Don's office of some duties between him and Tammy. Have been very helpful.
Good program.
Tab 27, that's Chancery Court. There's a net decrease of just over $13,000. Kathy is doing away with some of her part-time hours and then some adjustments in medical insurance as well. Tab 28 is Juvenile Court Services. You'll see a change in the top line in assistance in 103 of $8,000. We've had a couple of employees retire, and so they were replaced by two individuals with less experience, and because the two that retired had many years of experience in the department, and so the pay is less there. You'll see the increase of $39,000 from budget to budget. That's the caseworker, the social worker that the school system is paying for with ESSER funds, with the COVID funds. And it was not budgeted at all for this year originally. It was mid-year when it was added, and so we're adding that for a full year. Let's see, and then some medical insurance adjustments. And then, let's see, on page 2, that's it, no increases on page 2. So the total increase is about $58,000, but $39,000 of it is just a full year's funding for the social worker, and there's money offsetting that in on the revenue side. That money comes from the school system.
Is that ongoing funding, or is that just?
No,
That's
it's
a 2 years?
And this is a position that Judge Snyder wanted, so the funding will stop about the time that the transition in judge takes place.
What do we do then?
I think we'll listen to the new judge and what he wants to do. So that would be my thought. But I wouldn't, I mean, a lot of times federal grants come through and then, you know, they're 2, 3, 4 year grants, and then they anticipate that locals will pick it up, and that's not this case. I think there's some other ideas that'll be pursued. Any questions there? Okay, the Sheriff's Department covered tabs 30, 31, 32, 33.
Let's go back to
Okay.
29. How many of those security officers are certified by the state?
All of them.
All of them? So that means they get $800. I know one of those individuals has talked to many of us about a pay increase, so.
Well, all right, now, the full-time, the part-time don't get that.
Oh, it's
So,
full-time?
It's full-time. And the full-time are
Okay.
certified, not the part-time. There's 9
Okay.
full-time in the deputies line.
But you'll be addressing the salary increases that will include those individuals, well, okay.
Any other questions? Okay, that's 29. Then 30 all right, 30 was, look at 30. That was kind of in the middle of the sheriff's department. That is the domestic violence budget where we had received for a couple of years a state grant for 2 employees in a partnership with Harbor of Hamblin. And Harbor of Hamblin, which was the replacement for Cease, disbanded. And so what happened with that was we gave up the grant. It was transferred to McNabb. And so they kept the advocate that works in the court system with the domestic violence victims. The other grant did not continue. The grant that paid for this advocate continued, and she is now an employee of Helen Ross McNabb. The other employee was laid off, and she's no longer with the county. And we'll talk about in the nonprofit section the shelter services through Safe Space in Jefferson County. But as far as this budget is concerned, there's no money in it, there's no employees in it, there's no services in it. See, and then the sheriff's department was in tab 31. Any questions on that?
I've got a question that's not budget related, but it's something that we used to do, and I wonder if we still do it. When we have an officer retires, that we usually present them their revolver. Do we still do that? Okay,
That's still a practice. It's been a
Okay.
while.
all right, good.
Yes.
I think it's, okay.
And there's state statutes that allow it. And the sex offender registry is tab 32. Tab 33 is the jail. And you'll notice in the jail, I don't know if it was mentioned last week or not. I mean, overall, there's a decrease of $6,300, but the big addition in the budget is the food, or inmate food. And what we're doing there is we're in year 3 of our contract with Trinity Food Services. And there's an escalation clause in their contract where they could increase the meal price by CPI index, and they did not do that in year 2. In year 3, they have, and it's gone from 94 cents to $1.03. And we've also, in an effort to try to keep employees, is in the jail, is we feed them. The county pays for their lunch meal out of the kitchen. So that's a meal that costs. It's a different menu from what the prisoners eat from. It costs about $4 a meal. Any questions there? All right, the workhouse is just personnel, is all that is. It's two staff positions. That's tab 34. Tab 35 is the work release program. That's Don Baird's program. Increase of $800, $816. Longevity is part of that. It's offset by a decrease in communications. and then some training is in the bottom line in service and staff development. But bottom line increase of $816. Now, in this budget, in line, under other contracted services, in line 399, far left column, you'll see the account number, it's 399, it's other contract services. We have $90,000 in that line for jail to work program. And then, for the rest of the program, McNabb Center has raised the money within the community to pay for the rest of the program. Tab 36 is the EMA budget. Net increase of $3,600. Gasoline is $1,000 of that. The liability insurance is insurance that was approved mid-year this year for the volunteers. And in case they get hurt at an event and they have to miss work, then this insurance policy covers them. I think it replaces wages lost and that kind of thing. Okay, tab 37. This is the Civil Service Board. We have 3 Civil Service Board members. They're Dwayne Evans, Ron Spiller, and David Beckner. And they get paid $150 a month. And that's all this is. There is some money in there for testing. Tab 38. This is the medical examiner's budget, and I'll turn this over to Dr. Thompson and our medical examiner. We're going to go through a transformation, a little reorganization in the medical examiner's office, and Dr. Thompson will explain that.
Good afternoon. I'll try to be brief and answer any questions you may have. I'm actually not familiar with what you may have in front of you, but at the end of the day, this graph fairly well depicts what we're facing in terms of numbers in the medical examiner's office, both in terms of calls that we attend, total deaths, autopsies, cremations. I think the best thing for me to do is, as brief as I can, describe the process. Traditionally, in a coroner county, the coroner basically ran the death investigations. A medical examiner was a final arbiter of cause and manner of death. This has evolved to the point where there are medical death investigators that are in the medical examiner's office that coordinate with city, county, and state authorities and investigators to complete an investigation that from a medical death investigation standpoint, reports to the medical examiner, who remains the final arbiter of cause and manner of death. Of course, sometimes this requires toxicology, sometimes this requires an autopsy. Depending on the size of your county, your medical examiner may or may not be the forensic pathologist who does the autopsy. When there's a death in Hamlin County, it's reported to the medical examiner's office, and then that is dealt out to a medical death investigator who may or may not need to attend a death scene, because there's deaths in the hospital, there's deaths in nursing homes. Certainly, they attend all deaths that are outside of a medical facility and coordinate with local authorities. And then they are in contact with me to determine, is this a case where we might or might not need an autopsy, toxicology, et cetera. After a period of time in that investigation, the information comes back to me, and hopefully at that time I'm in a position to make a final determination of cause and manner of death. And that's kind of the way it goes down. Well, that whole situation with increase in population, increase in numbers, it's obviously the coroner is no longer just the only investigator on a death scene. In fact, it's my understanding that we actually had the last coroner in the state of Tennessee. And Eddie Davis has done this for over 30 years and done a remarkable job and a remarkable service. But we're kind of evolved out of that coroner situation into a medical death investigator, medical examiner situation. For example, in Knox County, I think that Knox County has what? I'm not sure what the population of Knox, 500,000. They have 10 full-time medical death investigators, 5 full-time medical examiners, 1 chief administrative officer, and 4 administrators. And that is outside of the forensic autopsy service. I'm only counting the medical examiner's office employees. Currently, we have 4 part-time medical death investigators, myself, and an administrative person that I've been paying. We're trying to reorganize to a medical examiner centered service that resembles somewhat more what you would see in Knox County, but we're kind of a tweener county. We're not a county where you can have a medical examiner with no help. Oftentimes they will deputize some of the law enforcement or even the local EMTs as death investigators. Oh, I messed that up. Somebody help me. I thought that part was in there. Well, let's get to this. In terms of our total calls, since I've been medical examiner since 2010. I just went back 10 years. In 2012, we had 519 total calls. In 2021, we had 812. In terms of attended on scene by one of the deputy coroners, we went from 221 in 2012 to 389 in 2021. Now, you'll notice a big bump there from 20 to 21. Some of that's COVID related and some of it's not. My fear is that 2022 is unfortunately going to more resemble 21 rather than 20. Fortunately, we've managed to not have our autopsies increase as much as our calls, and that's a credit to our medical death investigators and time on our part to determine. I mean, certainly if an autopsy is needed, we want to make sure that we get it, but if it's not going to add from a medical or a criminal standpoint, we don't just do autopsies just, to do them. There are certainly counties that contract for their medical examiner services, and the contracted medical examiner, when he gets a call and there's any question, he just autopsies them all, which is a substantial expense. Our overdose deaths, unfortunately, we kind of peaked in 2012 with the OxyContin, oxycodone, hydrocodone, prescription opiate situation that you're familiar with. We reached a nadir in 2018 because of strenuous efforts on the part of multiple parties to get that down. And through the pandemic, that's all gone. We're back where we were. And in 2022, we'll be past. Without getting into the details, but all those are medical death investigator cases. And for the foreseeable future, I only see them increasing. unfortunately. Boy, so every cremation report in Hamlin County, I have to sign. You can't be cremated unless I review the case and sign it. And sometimes that's pretty quick. Sometimes it's a text with the relevant information, then I text the administrative person that I was talking about, and that's done. But for example, today I signed 11. That has increased from 114 in 2012 to 400 in 2021. So it is this situation of numbers that has led us to reorganize in such a fashion that it resembles somewhat more what they do in Knox County and Davidson County, only without all the people. The medical death investigators are going to have a chief medical death investigator that they report to, and that chief medical death investigator will report to me, and will have the assistance of a part-time administrative person to try to organize all this information and in efficient and effective fashion. With that, wasn't even as brief as I wanted, but I'd be happy to answer any questions about the information.
What is the change, Dr. Thompson, in the overdose deaths? It was opioids, is that now moved to illegal substances mostly?
So we evolved from opioids to heroin
Yeah.
and methamphetamine with a big bump. But now that has fully evolved into the overwhelming majority of my deaths are due to fentanyl. And that's perhaps a subject for another time, but it is it is a crisis. And this, when you had opioid deaths, then you had an addict who was using an opiate in an illicit fashion, and they took too much. Or perhaps they changed routes, and that had an effect they didn't anticipate. When those became less available, now they're getting their opiate illicitly, heroin. Or perhaps occasionally illicit hydrocodone, oxycodone, or at least what they think is that. And the kind of the manner of death was similar. They too much, wrong route, etc. Now we have folks who have fentanyl as the absolute only thing on their toxicology. That tells me that's not what they were taking. But most of the fentanyl deaths are not overdoses, they're poisonings. Meaning they took what they thought was an appropriate amount of their illicit drug, but it was fentanyl. They didn't know it was fentanyl. In many cases, the person they bought it from didn't know it was fentanyl. Fentanyl's being stamped into Xanax appearing tablets. So,
Do we all
does that
need
answer
to,
your question?
Yes, thank you.
do we all need to start carrying that Narcan? Is that what it's called?
Well, we definitely all do not need to take any substance that we did not get at the pharmacy
Right,
with our name on it.
yeah.
All of
Doctor-
us might have had parents that might have exchanged headache pills with the other lady down the street. Or why don't you try this? Why don't you try, you can't
Right.
do it.
Dr.
And what's
Thompson?
scary is we had some deaths at Ohio State 3 weeks ago from Adderall. If they infiltrate the Adderall supply, we're going to be in big trouble.
The reorganization is going to cost an additional $5,700. Are we still going to have a coroner?
No.
No, that's what I thought.
So,
We'll have a chief medical death investigator.
Okay.
and then you'll have the deputies under that, so to speak.
Correct.
Okay, and what about the qualifications, Dr. Thompson? Is it pretty much the same as what you're doing now with the coroners and that system?
Correct.
Okay, sounds good.
Dr. Thompson, what do you contribute the increase of cremations to? I mean, it's a big jump.
expense for a burial funeral is one. Another is maybe an evolution in what people culturally find acceptable. Something that before was not is now more commonplace. And when you can have a cost comparison, it's just it's a fraction.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
And we noticed that when the economy's under stress, you have more cremations. The other's just population.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you all.
Thank you. Any other questions as far as the budget is concerned? Now, one thing, Eddie Davis, the coroner, is going to, he's got a role in this as well. And we've got about 30 years worth of records that need to be digitized, and he's going to be in charge of that. So we're going to have him trained on scanning the documents into the state system, and so that they'll be readily available for other investigations or for history. And I think what I understand is the records have to be kept for 30 years. So. Any other questions? Okay, let's see. Tab 39 is the Health Department. And the Health Department budget, especially Tim, you and Howard, as long as you guys have been here, it's taken on a little different look in that a county audit has wanted us. We used to have a direct, what was it called? A local direct contribution to the health department. It was its separate budget by itself. It basically covered overhead. It covered the office cleaning contract, the phone system, the building maintenance, pest control, office supplies, in a separate budget. And now what the county audit wants us to do is take that money, which if you'll look at, you look on the left side, line 309, contracts with government agencies, local direct. If you'll look at that, and then go across, and you'll see $66,267. All right, that's how much local money is in this. But it's divided among different line items. It's not just one line item. It's divided among the like custodial supplies or phone system or what I mentioned. So of the monies of the budget, the $885,000 budget, $66,000 of it is local. The rest of it's state money. And our director, Ashley Lyons, is here to answer any questions. And then we also make a contribution to the state of Tennessee, a payment to the state for health department as well. And we'll look at that here in a minute. Okay, next, any questions on the health department? All right, the next tab is tab 40, and that's the animal control budget. We still have 2 animal control officers. We're down 1 right now. We've had a resignation. We've increased overtime some because of the call-outs on weekends and at night. Medical insurance just because of changes. The budget's up about $1,900. Any questions?
Is that split from the city and county?
Yes. Yes, we bill, yes, we bill them. There's corresponding, revenue from the city to cover half of this. Yeah.
How's that working out, Bill, with the shelter down there?
Well, I think we've learned to work together well. I mean, there was the transition period.
Right.
The shelter's small. They'll tell you that, but they built with what money they had. And the cats are an issue. They just don't have any room for any.
My understanding of the shelter, they don't like taking, they like to get so full and they'll shut down from taking animals in. What do we do with our animals once that happens?
Well, we try all we can not to have to take an animal. You know, as far let's say, I mean, with an animal bite, you've got to do something. But,
Yeah.
you know, otherwise, you know, an animal, say, running at large or something like that, they'll make a canvass of the neighborhood to see, you know, if the animal is any of the neighbors and that kind of thing. So,
But we have a contract with the Humane Society, correct?
correct.
And if they refuse to take any animals, does that breach our contract? I mean, I see a big issue that could happen. You know, if you know, you have 100 dogs out there running around, which I see dogs running around Morristown all the time now.
Right.
You know, and I'm sure you and everybody else does too. And it's just really a nuisance. You know, we need to do something with that.
Okay. All right, we'll talk. We'll talk.
Okay.
I'll talk with that.
You are going to address the more aggressive animals that, because there's a loophole there that makes it really difficult.
Yes, we need to address the appeals process. Yeah, yes. Any other? Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, the next tab is 41, and that is the education component of the litter grant. There's two components to our litter grant that we get from the state of Tennessee. One helps pay for, and it's reflected on the revenue side, it helps pay for the workhouse employees at the jail that take crews out to pick up trash. And so that pays for those employees. This is the education component of the litter grant. $10,000 of it goes to keep Morristown, Hamilton County beautiful for their programs, and then $9,000 of it is going to the tire collection events that we do. Now, this year, we held one event. We would like to hold two. In previous years, we've held one. But what's happened is the tire recycling company that the landfill does business with out of Bristol raised its recycle rate from $75 a ton to $160 a ton. And there's only two companies that service Tennessee, and the others more than that. So that's why we're having to spend more on the tire recycle event, but it's a very good event. I've worked it the last 4 years, and we collect a lot of tires. I think there was like 60 tons this year, so in one morning.
That's once a year, correct? And you're talking about
Right now, we're
twice.
hoping to do two.
Mayor,
One in the fall, one in the spring.
when would be a good time to discuss litter education? Or I'm talking about public service announcements. In my campaign, so to speak, just recently, I had a lot of folks, and if you drive the road, you realize how bad it is. We've got a litter problem. And some folks are really adamantly wanting to see something done.
Is
it's-
that not what we're paying to Keep America Beautiful
Well,
people
yeah,
for? Because I never see anything they do. I'll be
I'm not,
honest, I never-
I hear you, Tim, I'm
Yeah.
not certain. That's why I'm asking, what can we do as a county to help with our litter situation? You know, it's gonna take, again, it's gonna take all of us, it'll take the sheriff's department, it'll take education, it'll take all of us working together. I don't wanna create more problems for our jail, but at the same time, when you see somebody throw trash out in the middle of the road, something needs to be done. That's my opinion.
That calls for revenue for revenue. Give them a
Well,
ticket.
yeah.
And apparently, the sanitation department's not picking up tires. They're still along the road where
They
the
won't
property
pick
owner
up
put
tires.
them.
They won't pick up tires,
Are
right?
they gonna leave them there? Just-
No, you have to take them to the dump yourself, out to the landfill yourself.
And then they'll charge
Charge
those
you.
They
Yeah.
charge you.
property
They're
owners.
going to charge you
Yeah.
for that.
So if the property owners decided, just leave them
Well, see,
along the
and,
road.
and my understanding, that's a double good thing for the landfill, because you have to pay to take them out there. They sell them to these, shredder people, so they're making on both ends of
They
that
don't
deal.
sell
but-
'em. They
Huh?
don't sell them, Tim.
They don't sell
Lose
'em.
money on the tires.
Yeah.
They lose money on
Maybe at one time, but there again, just what we're discussing, it costs more to take the tire to the landfill, and now they're being thrown on the side of the road.
Yeah.
We've got a problem in our county.
And as you go around, I'll see back roads and stuff, you'll see them piled up. All
It's
over.
not just that, it's just regular debris being thrown in the byways, and
Yeah.
Has Barry,
I'd like to see us do something.
has Barry Pooley ever thought about a couple times a year taking the knuckle boom trucks out and picking the tires up on a Saturday?
it. I haven't talked to him about it.
We've done that at times too at the city. The reason I asked.
The problem you have sometimes is the fact that you gotta be careful, because you got these tire stores that will take their tires out there and get rid of them for you, and they don't have to pay the tonnage weight, so.
Mayor Britton, is the contract with KMHB, is it the 10,000 for education, is it mandatory? And why did we make that determination for 10,000 to them, and what does that give us back?
There's a list of, the agreement, there's a list of items that they have to meet to be paid and meet certain activities. And if they don't do it, then we don't pay them.
But they've been,
It used to be more than $10,000, and we reduced it and used the money for the tire units.
should we not consider that even some more?
Sure, we can review it. We usually have a conversation with them every year about what they're going to do and what our expectation is.
It would seem like there would be some good, better use of the funds by picking up more tires and then paying for education if the education is not effective. And if we're getting a bigger problem, then it would seem like the education's not being very effective.
Sometimes you got to enforce the education.
Yeah.
Educate the educators.
I'll answer, Chris, you made a comment about people throwing out trash. I'm gonna give you an example of how this works. I got a piece of property out on West Croxdale. People bring stuff in there and dump it. I go through it. I get the receipt where the guy bought the parts from Home Depot. He put in a new light, those lights in the ceiling. The boxes were there. He had a list of everything. The lumber was there, paint cans was there, it's still sitting there. I got a copy of all of that, the receipts and everything, where the guy lived and everything, and took it to the city. And they got back with me about a month later and said, well, we didn't see him drop it off out there. I said, well, it's still out there if you wanna come and look at it, but it's still up. So, they're not doing their job. When you got a receipt where the guy bought it, you've got the material, the box that it come in, and the old trash, and it come off of Eastern Heights, and the guy rebuilt his house. I went up there and looked at it in a garage, and you could see those lights. I got the boxes. Here's a whole pickup truck load. Now, that's just one case. Other cases where I've got a place right down from me, and we don't have room to put our trash on the side of the road up on West Croxdale. So we take it down there to the turnaround, and we'll drop off that household trash. We don't have any wood or trees or nothing like that. But next thing you know, here comes a pickup truck load at 11 o'clock at night. He fills that place up with everything, commodes, tires, you name it. And the last meeting, I asked Barry if he couldn't put me a sign up out there. So with 3 or 4 neighbors, we're getting tired of it. But,
I've wondered.
One guy I pulled in down there, and he was unloading, and I said, hey, buddy, it's a private property. Load it right back up. And he loaded it back up. I guess he took it on down to Bobby Holmes and dropped it off down there, or wherever he did with it. But it's a two-way street. When you've got all the information and you give it to the police department, codes at the city, and they do nothing, I still got all the information about it. Still got the wood. I'm just waiting for it to rot. So that's answering your question.
Well, I'm wondering what can we do? Like you had proof there, but do we need to, on these bad sites, put up cameras, put up something? I mean, I know drug enforcement does that. They and takes them to jail on it. So why can't we figure it out? Just a thought.
Excuse me, next page, under the same tab, 41, is a tire grant. And the tire grant is a pass-through. It's money that comes from the state that is collected by the retailers that is used to pay for the tire disposal and tire recycling. And so we budget $95,000 in and $95,000 out, and it's paid to the landfill. Okay, tab 42 is Cherokee Park. Next fiscal year is going to be a year of transition at the park. And Frank Parker, our manager for the last several years, is going to retire at the end of August. And so we'll have to look at the staffing and how that's done at the park. We don't have, Frank and I haven't come up with an answer to that yet. And because I don't think anybody's going to spend the time, and I wouldn't expect anybody to spend the time at the park that Frank spends. And so, so this budget is still with 2 full-time employees, a part-time employee, and then the functions that go along with the park. You'll see, let's see, medical insurance changed a little bit with change in coverage. We have diesel fuels up $1,500. That's what powers the mowers. Water and sewers down $2,500. Other construction, which is repairs to pavilions or sheds, is up $4,000. So the park total budget is up $6,500.
Bill, are we gonna keep long-term residents out there at the park?
There are some sites that are used for long-term camping. And then what we decided back in December, January, was that there would be a designated number of sites that would be for 14-day camping. There's been a lot of changes out in the campground, and Frank's been able to clean it up, get some of the folks that didn't want to obey the rules, the new rules. They've moved out, and so.
But you don't have permanent residents.
No, we do. We do. Well, permanent, I guess it's the definition of permanent. I mean, is it their home? Is it their mailing address? No. Are they there for a year? Let's say we have some folks who are working in town in construction or whatever, and they are living out there for 6-9 months, up to a year.
Yeah, we've had some of those guys out there for several years.
Right.
Are they gone or?
You've increased the rental rate on those people too.
Yes. There's some that stayed, but not the ones that we wanted to go.
Shouldn't those rates go up as well? Shouldn't we charge more for those? That's probably another day, but
Well, we did raise them in January, effective January 1.
but they're still very reasonable.
Yes.
Shouldn't have you allowed to do that.
That shouldn't be.
There is a couple of sites that there's not been anybody there in a couple of years that are out of Kentucky, he said that.
You mean that are paying, but they
paying,
haven't
but
been
they
there.
haven't been there, yeah. They just
They're the
haven't.
low-maintenance sites. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, show up one weekend a year.
Well, they hadn't been there in a year, he said.
But some of the sites just look really bad. Some of the trailers out there, or campers out there, they look really bad. You go to other campsite somewhere, and there's some of them, if your camper's 5 years old or more, you can't pull it in there. I don't think we should do that. It's just the fact that, you shouldn't have permanent sites out there. You shouldn't be awnings out there, decks out there, and all that other good stuff. It's just,
We talked about, when we were out there that day, about requiring them to pressure wash their campers and.
That's
Yeah.
one of the rules.
if they keep their camper up, that's one thing. A lot of them don't. A lot of them
Frank
have it.
tells us that if we change it, that we're gonna have to increase staff.
If we change it from, let's say, all 14-day rentals, you're going to have somebody there to sign people in and out. And that will affect staffing and the profitability. I guess it just depends on how far you want to go.
Can't do it online like Panther Creek does? If you wanna go to Panther Creek, you just go online, they tell you what day you're gonna be there and tell you what spots you got.
Well, it's also, Wayne,
Don't have to be there.
their online reservation system's also a statewide system. And so they have that backbone, which is paid by the state. And,
We have to have some enforcement out there also.
I mean, we have 2 people out there. We run that park with 2 people and 1 part-time person.
And like you say, Frank it's almost been a 24/7 job with him, so that's not gonna happen after August.
But, if I mean, keep thinking about how you want the park to evolve. I think we've made some advances since we started that conversation back in December. Is it where we want it to be? No. But I think we can get there. Questions on the budget? Okay, the next budget is Ag Extension. We are, let's see, holding everything status quo. Right now, the way Ag Extension pays its folks, or the way the county ends up compensating UT is we pay a certain percentage of the compensation of certain employees. Some of them are all paid by the state or by UT. One is paid all by the county. Others are paid percentage-wise, and so that's generally changes in the budget that you see. Under tab 44, that's soil conservation. We fund one clerical position at the Soil Conservation District Office, and all this is personnel costs for that one position. Tab 45, that's the stormwater budget, no changes there. In the stormwater budget, you have, that first line is the permit, the fee that we pay the state for the permit. We have some engineering services that we have to review drainage plans for plats and subdivisions that are submitted to the planning office. And then we have $15,000 in the budget for different stormwater projects that we might need. Tab 46 is tourism. Line 316, the Chamber of Commerce operates our tourism efforts, and we pay $22,500 for that. And then we have $32,200 in the budget. See, $2,000 of that is a sponsorship for the state disc golf tournament, which is this weekend. This coming weekend, we have over 500 disc golfers participating in the tournament. We pay $200 to be part of the Civil War trail and the marker we have out in the courthouse lawn for the Battle of Morristown. And then there's $30,000 in here for the 4th of July event, which is offset. Some years it's more, and some years it's less, where our sponsorships generate more money than what we spend, and some years it's less. So, but our target is $30,000.
Has tourism picked up any since COVID's kind of eased up any?
Most of our tourism in Hamlin County is business tourism, but I think the hotels would tell you, and I think the data says that we're seeing more hotel nights.
Good.
Whether that's from, I can't tell you, all right, this percentage is business related and this is from traveling related. I don't have that data. So, Ann Ross, our tourism director, probably does.
So we're online now with our motel taxes and all that?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. It's I think back to where it was.
Good.
Okay, tab 47 is industrial development. Contribution to the Joint Economic Development Board is $91,000. $10,000 of that goes to help fund workforce development projects. And then the $550,000 is the TIF payments, the tax increment financing payments, and there's corresponding revenue on the revenue side. So it's a wash. Tab 48 is veteran service. Tim Williams is our veteran service officer, does a great job, and his budget is the same. Well, it's $4 more. Tab 49 is the area called employee benefits, and in this area, there's several different things that are paid out of this. If we are charged any unemployment compensation fees by the federal government, then we pay it out of here. We've reduced it this year because we haven't really had to pay much. The COVID year, we had $20,000 worth of claims, but other than that, we haven't really experienced much in unemployment claims. Under, let's see, contracts with private agencies, the 312, that's $20,000. We keep that for in case we need to make a contribution to our self-insurance fund for clinic operations. or anything like that. Or any other miscellaneous expenses, we do that from that line. We haven't used it much over the last few years. Other contracted services is another line, kind of a catch-all line. It's just $3,000 in case something comes up that we need to take care of. Liability insurance, we do not have a quote yet for fiscal year 22-23. So that number, we've budgeted the same as we have this year, which is $474,700, but we're anticipating getting the quote on that. Taking that out for bid is really not an option right now because of our jail situation. And we had two companies, which I've told you before, we had two companies drop us because of the lawsuits in the jail, and that has declined considerably over the last couple of years. And so the Tennessee Risk Management Trust has been good to us. So we're waiting on their pricing. And they supply our workman's compensation insurance as well. And we do not have a price from them yet on that. Liability claims, in that line, that's where we pay our deductibles from our insurance. And most of our deductible is $25,000 per claim for our liability insurance. And that $25,000 goes to legal fees. And because most of our claims deal with lawsuits, and so we turn them over to the liability insurance company. And so this year we've seen a decline in that. If we had a settlement, let's say we've had a couple in the jail over the last 3 or 4 years, then like if you look at 2021 or 1920, you'll see higher numbers. We had maybe a settlement in there. That would come out of this line, and but this year has been good. We have fewer lawsuits. Our population is not as great either, which when you have more people in a confined space, you're going to have more tempers flare. So that's what's paid out of the liability claims line. So we've kept it the same at $75,000. Let's see. And tab 50 is just the COVID, when we had COVID money, the CARES Act money from the state in 2021. County Audit wanted us to budget it out of these lines. There's no money in that in this budget. And tab 51, this is under miscellaneous contracts with other public agencies. That's the fees that we pay to be members of the East Tennessee Human Resource Agency and the East Tennessee Development District. That's the 15.4 there. Then under other contracted services, the $399, the $10,000 is what we budget every year for corridor studies. We may pay part of a match. We split it with the federal government, the state, DOT, City of Morristown, and us would pay, like, for example, the corridor study for Highway 160. We'll pay a small match to get that done. And then the Trustees Commission, what that's money that's paid to the general fund for revenue collection, and that's all funds do that. So what happens is it's paid. This is paid out of the general fund. It goes right back into the general fund. So, and that's under state law. Let's see. The next section is our capital project under tab 52. Under general administrative projects, if you'll look under the bold section, we went through this on the overview night, but the $50,000 under building improvements, that's for the hiring of a structural engineer to look at the balconies of the historic courthouse, also an architect. We need to purchase a prefab building add electricity to it and the bathroom to it for the maintenance department, so that they have a shop to do welding and that kind of thing. And so to meet codes, we have to have an architect to prepare plans and stamp plans to submit to the city of Morristown. Let's see, the communications is the phone system. We've bid the phone system. We'll come to you next month with the selection of the phone system. Interviews are going on now with the top 4. I think we had 7 or 8 companies submit proposals. We're interviewing the top 4. Heating and air is 713. We budgeted $25,000, about $5,000 more than last year for heat and air systems for various buildings. And Terry's done a good job in coordinating, keeping our heat and air systems running, and when they've reached a certain point, replace them. Motor vehicles, the $30,000 in motor vehicles is a used truck for the maintenance department to replace a truck that we already have. Let's see, the total there is $255,000.
Mayor Brennan, what is the vehicle that we're replacing? When did we buy that? Bought a new? Okay. We bought a used one last year, didn't we? How's that worked out?
How many vehicles do you have over? You got 4 trucks? Everybody got their own truck? Who's the 5th truck gonna go to? Who's the 5th truck gonna go to?
This one goes to Randy, who's replacing his and dropping this one down to Larry.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe you had to hire another guy to fill the truck up with.
We're going to use the cardboard cutout.
There you go.
Any questions there? Next page is capital for public safety. Included in that is $21,000 for MDTs for the detectives. Then in line 716 are 2 pickup trucks for Sheriff's Department and a used truck for EMA. It has to be a pretty heavy-duty truck to haul one of the trailers they have that has their four-wheelers in it. What are they called?
Costs like mules.
Yeah, the mules, that's it. I think they put 2 in the trailer, is that
Put
right?
2 in the trailer. It's a huge double axle enclosed trailer, 2 5/16 ball. Never had a truck really that could pull it much. We've always utilized the volunteers, and they have to bring 3/4 ton or above to pull it. It is a heavy, heavy trailer.
53. Page 2 of 52.
Any questions? And then, capital, public health and welfare, there is none. There is none under social, cultural, and recreation, or under other government general fund. Let's see. You would go to tab 53. This is the not out of order. You have that, you have all these sheets, okay. The first page on 53 is your summary sheet on the nonprofits. If you I'm going to go through the other sheets. If you want to pull that out and kind of go along with it, or we'll go through the others and come back to that. If you look at the first page after that summary sheet, it's fire prevention and control. Line 316 is the volunteer fire department contributions. There's an $80,000 increase there, $20,000 per fire department. And Commissioner Doty requested that be in the budget.
I make a motion, I'd like to make a motion, we reduce that. I know we need some more money out there for, fuel, but $20,000 per fire department, I think is kind of extreme.
If we reduce that, I want to make a motion, we reduce Parks and Rec, because right now we're giving $300,000 to Marshtown Parks and Rec to support that versus our volunteer fire
Well,
departments
well,
that are
well-
all volunteering to go out.
Well, we need to do the
Can I
fire
finish
department
mine,
first.
please?
Huh?
I'll let you finish yours. Can I finish mine, please, sir?
Not done yet.
Okay. I'm
So
sorry
just
then.
be
I
quiet until we
apologize.
get done here. That's just, I think, just too much money. I think,
Is this, will this be a continuous annual $80,000 or just this year?
It would be in the budget. Well, yes, it would be in the budget next year.
In the next.
Unless, say, the commission decided a one-time appropriation.
Okay, all right.
It doesn't have to be a reoccurring.
I guess, how do you propose funding that? But you may not have a fund balance like that following year. So somewhere along the line, you're going to come to a tax increase, aren't you?
Well, I think, sure.
Sometimes. You know, I'm not against it, because those people really do a good service for the county.
Do it one time and then revisit it next year.
Yeah, you could. You know, in my discussion with East Hamlin County Fire Department, they've got more cost now with equipment, fuel cost. You know, and they do provide a service. I'm not
They do.
disagreeing with what you're saying, but I think at least it should be this one-time funding and look at it again year to year maybe, like Commissioner Horner just said. I think it's invaluable that we support them.
I make a motion that we increase it to $5,000 and then look at it again next year.
Well, well, that's your motion.
That's pretty cheap fire protection, $55,000 plus $60,000 a year per fire department. That's pretty cheap fire protection.
Yep.
The city spends more than that on one fire station. What are we talking about here?
I think what we're talking about, Wayne, is upping it to 80. I mean, 55 plus 20 be 75,000 instead of 60. So.
Well, Tim made a motion for 5.
Right.
That's six, no, that's 60. They get 55 now. That's 60,000.
We have a motion on the floor for 60,000. Does anyone want to give a second to that motion? Or do we even discuss that at this point? Yeah? Yeah. Got a motion for 60,000. Do we have a second? Since we don't have a second, that fails. Mayor Britton, how do those costs compare? The return on the investment has been pretty good with the fire department, correct?
In my opinion, yes.
I mean, if we had to hire those services, it'd be dramatically more.
You're talking millions.
What's the end of their fund balance, the volunteer fire, at the end of the year, on average?
Some are stronger than others, just like West. West had the bingo for years and years before it became illegal.
Yeah.
And so they've got a large fund balance where some of the others don't.
But they do have a considerable fund balance, fund balance.
Not all of them, I don't think.
South Morristown Wit is probably one of the most active, because they've got to work all of Interstate 81. If you have a wreck on there, they've got to go out and work it.
Well, if on any structure fire, and I'm not sure about the interstate, but any structure fire, at least 3 departments, probably all 4 go and respond.
It changed from 2 departments to 3 departments in 2008 because of lack of volunteers. People are having to go out and volunteer their time, not only to fight the fires, but to get the training, to do the fundraisers, to try to make the money, to try to upkeep the equipment. And basically, people are just not willing to volunteer that much. And the numbers are low, so they're having to get 3 departments to go. Where Wayne was talking about the interstate with South Hamlin Fire Department. Yes, they have to answer to any wreck on the interstate. That's snow, ice, whatever. I've been out there many a times, and tractor trailers coming by hard enough that it'll slide a fire truck on ice. And it's volunteers out there doing that. Something people don't know, if that fire truck leaves the building, by ISO, you can't turn it off unless you're fueling it until you get it back to the building. Because if it's an emergency scene, you have to be able to pump water at the drop of a hat. So you don't go sit and turn the motor off and let it sit and say fuel. It runs the whole time. And that's by ISO. That's not by their desire. Fuel costs are outrageous. Officer Cribley with the Sheriff's Department was telling just the other day, he's a member at West Hamlin, he's aware of their budget. You mentioned them. Their budget is $110,000 a year. And just speaking from experience, when they solicit donations, they've got to where they send out the mail-out solicitations because Morristown City got so strict on the setting up with the boot to take personal donations, and they'll send out 4,500 to 5,500 solicitations to different homes, and you'll do good to get back 300. You'll do good to get back $5,000 to $7,500 with most of them. And I know I've been a member of South and North Hamlin, and that's, I think the best year I ever saw at South, we got about $9,600. And, then running around trying to do little fundraisers here and there, spending every weekend, because every fundraiser that you do, you spend the whole weekend working the fundraiser. Well, you spend 2 to 3 weekends prior to that you're not with your family preparing for that fundraiser, getting all your product ready or getting your demonstrations ready or whatever it is you're doing. And then every one of the volunteer fire departments goes to the schools during Fire Prevention Week. And all that comes out of these budgets.
Bill, I'd like for the county to look at something in the future. I know it after the budget. Dandridge has done this, I believe, through grants. I don't know if it's from the state or where from. I'd have to get the Dandridge to find out. But they were able to pay at each station 24/7, one man at that station. And to me, to get into a fire quick enough is what's more important. And, it's very important to get there as quick as you can. And they cut down their time very quickly by having someone at the station. When a call come in, jump the truck and go. And Dandridge has done is start out with one person or 2 per station 24/7. And then it has evolved and grown, and it's all paid through by grants. I'd like to, after this budget, for county commission to look into that. So that's something I think that would help this county out a great deal, to have someone or 2 at that station waiting. So That's just a thought after the budget.
There are some FEMA grants that the volunteer fire departments apply for that,
No,
buy equipment,
20.
turnout gear
20.
and that kind of thing, but they're like $20,000 grants.
There's been some bigger ones. When I was with South Hamlin, I was able to secure a $160,000 grant. We bought the first response brush truck and such to respond to interstates and brush fires. It's a multi-use truck, but those are few and far between. We just had a huge need out there at that time frame to be able to get that.
I'll make a motion, we do 20 and revisit it next year.
Have a motion for 1 year at 20 and to determine again next year. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second. Do we have any further discussion?
I have one question for the mayor. On our budget for revenue, you've got 11.8 for fund balance at the end of the year right now. Is that still gonna hold pretty close?
For the end of, let's see, the end of this year, yeah.
And Mayor Brennan, when will we find out how much we have completely going back into the surplus?
We'll have a better idea next week, since we'll have 11 months of revenue. And, I'll have a more accurate number.
Where do we stand right now? Do you have any idea?
No, not really, just based on the.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?
Aye.
Motion carries.
We have, it looks like, two groups that's requesting an increase, correct?
Correct, yes, Alps, let's see if you want to do this.
And Helen, no, Matt. I'd like to move that we keep the funding of those two agencies the same as it is in the 21-22 budget.
We have a motion to stay the rate at what it was last year. And do we have a second? for that motion? We got a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries.
Mayor, I also want to look at the Hola Lakeway. Hula, say it correctly?
Yeah.
Hola.
It was, you funded it 15,000 this year.
I want to take that 15,000 away and move it back up to the fire departments.
Excuse me.
I'd like to put that in form of a motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Can you elaborate on what services they provide and what benefit that equates to?
I guess more so on the benefit. I can comment on that. And is there, Hola Lakeway is basically our liaison with the Hispanic community. And right now, the Hispanic community is around 25% of the school system population and probably around 20% of the overall county population. I mean, in my opinion, the way I've seen them work is we get a good value for what they do. They do English classes, they do literacy classes, they do some job training, they do a lot of tutoring for children, Hispanic children. I could have Betsy come next time.
So that's a pretty good benefit for Hamilton County.
Pardon?
That's pretty good benefits for Hamilton County.
We have a motion, we have a second. Do we have any further discussion? If not, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Is that two? And opposition?
Aye.
Aye. Motion fails.
You have a new agency requesting,
Well, this is a unique situation with Safe Space, where we, 2 years ago, not from this year's budget, but the previous year.
yeah, I understand that.
You know, we funded them for shelter services. And right now, Hamlin County is has the second highest number of individuals and nights spent at the Safe Space shelter in Jefferson County. And we do not have a shelter here in Hamlin County. So, surrounding counties, other counties provide funding. Sevier is the number one. They fund at 10,000. Then you have Granger, you have Cobb, those counties. So, and then United Way in Hamlin County has helped Safe Space. So this $8,000 that's proposed for Safe Space is what we funded SEES last year. It was
You just recommend that we take the money that we funded to somebody else, to the new agency.
from SEES, yes.
But we
Okay.
didn't have that funding last year, did we?
I'll make a motion, we fund that $8,000.
I'll second that motion.
Got to get a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? I would like to know more about what they do. I mean, is it completely like CEAS? Or can you just have them come to speak to their? Okay. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
The opposition? Motion carries.
All right, so make sure I'm clear. Mr. Chairman, you want me to have them come next week and speak to the group?
I would personally like to see what they do and know that it's worth the value that we're committing to. Do we know of any offset that it provides to any other areas that we?
One thing that, Van Wolf is their director, she sent me information on a fee that we could add to criminal cases that some of the other counties have done that generates enough revenue to offset the $8,000. And we could pursue that, and she could stand up here and talk about that.
They're already serving some of our clients, aren't they?
Yes, we're the second highest. All right, let's see. Nine-one-one is less. It's based on the formula that the funding of 911 is there's a flat fee for both city and county as part of the funding formula, and the second half is based on the number of calls. Our call volume went down, so our contribution is going down for next year. Let's see. McNabb asked for an increase, but we're recommending it stay the same for assessments. Everything else is the same.
Do we need to have a vote on these recommendations, or is that adequate at this point?
We can, I mean, when we do the whole budget.
Yeah.
See. Any questions on the nonprofit list? We'll look at, oh, I'm sorry, the library. The library has requested, they've requested a total appropriation of $329,500, and plus a one-time appropriation of $18,100 to, and that's half the cost of a security camera system for outside and inside the building. The city would pay half, the county would pay half. That's their request. And the increase from about a $10,000 increase for operations is to give the staff a 3% raise and $1,500 increase for merchant services, which I'm assuming that that's their software that they use for book checkout and online service. So there's two parts to their request. One is for operations of a just under $10,000 increase, and then the $18,000 for the camera system.
How many employees do they have?
They have about 8 full-time and several part-time. They operate on part-time employees to save on benefits.
$36,000 for camera service. Do you know what camera company
It's a new system. I've seen the description of it. It's hardwired because of their block walls. The wireless systems don't work. They can't get a signal, like especially to the outside cameras. And but they're having a lot of folks, homeless folks, kind of camp out there, and that's a destination for those folks. And I mean, Tim, they've got to bid it. I mean, they've got a quote for that, but they've got to bid it anyway.
Their homeless population is a bad situation for them.
Yeah, I've seen them out there.
And, you know, they were inside, but I think they moved outside now. You can drive by there.
So they got to bid it, they haven't bid it yet? Not bid.
Not that I'm aware of. They've got a quote.
They got
They haven't bid.
one service.
Yes.
Okay.
Is that a local vendor? Seems a little high, doesn't it?
Seems a lot, yeah, real high.
I can have them come and speak to it if you like.
Well, you know, the thing with it, if they bid it, you know, I'd like to approve this once they've got the best quote out there. I mean, I want to do it, I just don't want to, 36,000 a lot. So can we go ahead and make a motion to pass this? And if it comes in at $20,000, we keep the rest, right? General budget?
Yeah. If it comes in underneath?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I'll make a motion, we do it.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion.
This both have. Is this the operation and the capital?
Yeah, that's fine with me, yes.
Yes.
Will we be reviewing pay increases separately for them? Does this finish it? Because you don't want to
Profit's
give
gonna count.
the 3% now and then go across the board.
No, they make their own, their board makes their own decision.
Okay.
We give them X dollars and then they make it.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, just make sure I'm clear on some of the motions. Okay, keeping Mats and Alps at current level, that passed, correct?
Yes.
All right, and then funding Safe Space at 8,000, that passed, and then ask their executive director to come and speak.
Yes.
Ola Lakeway, was there a motion on Ola Lakeway?
Yes.
To stay.
To stay.
Do you want their executive director to come and speak?
I think it'd be good.
Excuse me, maybe I missed something. We had a motion on the whole, that failed. Did we actually pass the funding at the current level?
It'll stay,
Okay,
it'll stay, and then
okay. All right, it's fine.
That whole,
So we'll have a motion for the whole.
For the whole
general
thing, right.
fund. Yeah.
so
Are you aware of any ways that we could use any offset there to fund that? Is there anything that we can charge back? It's education, and it's mostly education, is it not? Yeah.
11.8 million fund balance, yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's pretty nice.
Would you care to ask them if they could kind of research and see if there's any way to pass along any of those charges? I think it's certainly needed, but it's expensive. If there's any services, no, just to see if there's any pass-throughs that we could get.
fees for service. type
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I think that's it.
Okay.
What did we put in for Morristown Recreation Board?
Same.
3? Leave it at 3, okay.
Okay, item 5 is the announcements. We've got the upcoming budgets. This is going to be June 2nd for the school department, June 7th for school department deliberations, and then open items for the budget updates. Then on June 9th, budget open items and budget updates. And the 13th, we should wrap it up and vote for a proposed budget. The 27th and 28th, we should be able to adopt the budget.
Are the 27th, 28th, or Monday and Tuesday? That would be a special call meeting to vote on the budget and on the 3 resolutions. What day do you want? 27th, Monday, or the 28th, Tuesday?
27th for me.
I'll go with that. 27? Yeah. Okay. Do we have a motion for the 27th then? And do we have a second? Mr. Reed. Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. The opposition? 27th.
Bill, you can get your vice
And
mayor
we're
to do it.
adjourned.
I'll have to wait on you.